Planning the general structure of an assignment lets you sort out the overall organisation before you start writing, which really helps to improve the clarity of your final work. The key stages of general planning are to first gather your points, then group similar points together, put the groups in order, and then order the points within the groups. Finally, check the plan includes all the required elements. We like using small sticky note papers because they're easy to move around. Of course, you can type in a document, write in a notebook, or use a different tool if you prefer. We'll go through these steps in more detail to plan the general structure for this essay title. Critically evaluate the methods schools can use to support the emotional well-being of children with dyslexia. Starting with step 1, we need to gather our points. Put 1 point per note paper. Don't worry about the order, just get all your ideas down. For this essay, our points to include in the plan are defining dyslexia and linking it to well-being, reading interventions, school-wide mindfulness programs, of course, an overview of the topic, social and emotional learning interventions for specific children and programs for the whole school, a supportive school ethos, thinking about which method is most effective, counselling, defining well-being in an educational context, and the implications of the efficacy of different methods for the future and best practice. In step 2, we need to look at all our points and group similar ones together. This is where small note papers are useful so you can move them around. The groups will form the paragraphs or sections in your assignment. We've put the points into 4 groups. An introduction with definitions and an overview of the topic, a section with one-to-one methods to support well-being for individual students, the conclusion looking at implications and effectiveness, and a section for collective methods that support well-being for the whole school. Now we've got our groups, in step 3 we need to put them in a logical order. This usually goes from general to specific, but what's logical depends on your particular assignment. For this assignment, we'll start with the introduction. This has got the most general information about the overall topic. Next, we'll put collective methods to support well-being, because these are school level, so they're quite general. Third, we'll have one-to-one methods to support well-being. These are individual, so they're a little bit more specific. Finally, we'll have the conclusion that brings everything together. In step 4, we need to put the particular points in a logical order within their groups. Again, what's logical depends on the assignment, but we usually want a linear progression of ideas. In the introduction, we'll start with an overview of the topic, then define dyslexia and define well-being. In the collective methods section, we have 3 different methods which are all quite equivalent to each other: supportive school ethos, social and emotional learning programs, and mindfulness programs. These don't build on each other, so they could go in a different order, that's fine. In one-to-one methods, we've put reading interventions first, because this is most specifically tied to dyslexia, followed by social and emotional learning interventions and counselling. Again, you could swap the last 2 if you wanted. In the conclusion, first we'll look at which method is most effective, and then based on this, we'll consider the implications for the future and best practice. In step 5, check over the plan and make sure it contains all the required elements. In the introduction, the reader knows what to expect from the key information in the overview of the topic and the definitions of key concepts. The main content gives a good range of collective and one-to-one measures, which can be critically analysed as they're presented. And the conclusion contains most of the critical evaluation and analysis by making and justifying a choice about the most effective methods, and then making evidence-based recommendations when considering implications. So we've included everything, and it's logically structured. Our general plan is ready. Find loads more academic skills resources on the skills guides. subjectguides.york.ac.uk/skills.